First question for you, and this is probably a pretty basic one. You've gotten a lot. With the new mask executive order today, how are you going to enforce this?
That's the top question anyone's asked me. And
Mhm.
it's a good question, but let me start with this. It's on every single one of us to enforce this. It's on every single one of us to do our part. This is not an issue that should be political. This is about our public health. This is about our economy. This is about getting our kids back in school this fall. And this is about our health. You know, Michiganders have shown the world that we know how to do this, right? We pushed our curve down. We saved thousands of lives in the process. We led the country. When it was Memorial Day and Michigan was the only state that was green on the national map, it said Michiganders are smart and we know how to do this. Now we've dropped our guard. Our numbers are going up. Our numbers are going up in every part of the state, and I'm very concerned. What we see happening in Florida or Texas or California could be Michigan if too many of us drop our guard. We might have to start moving back into phases and shutting things down again. And I can confidently say not a single person wants that to happen. So we got to mask up. We got to mask up so that our kids can get back into the schools this fall. We got to mask up so we save lives. We got to mask up so that we mitigate the pain that we're feeling in our state economy and in our households. And that's why this is so important. So enforcement will come in the picture of a business owner who will have to turn some people away, patrons away if they don't show up with masks on. But they're doing it because it's state law. They're doing it because they care about the health of their workforce, and they're doing it because they care about the health of their patrons as well.
Some businesses are doing this, yes, but we've seen instances both in Michigan and across the country where business owners and workers have been verbally abused, attacked, and we saw one instance in eastern part of the state where someone was killed when they were trying to enforce a mask policy. What do you say to business owners and workers who are frankly afraid to try and do this?
Well, I think that it's going to be important that we keep our wits about us, you know, that patrons give the workers some grace. They're just doing their jobs and trying to enforce state law, and just show up with a mask. And you know what? If you want to have dinner, but you won't wear a mask, eat dinner at home. It's really, you know, we're not telling you have to do this at home, but if you go out and you subject other people to your presence, we ask that you show them the respect of wearing a mask, and you do it for yourself and your family as well. This is not an easy time, but we got to keep our wits about us and show that we are pragmatic people who understand when we wear a mask, it's a sign of respect for ourselves and for others, and it's a sign of how smart we are and how seriously we take this, because this economic toll that we are all paying for is because we let this virus spread too fast. Let's not do it again.
We saw during the quarantine some law enforcement officers and sheriffs refused to enforce the guidelines that you had set down. Do you have any recourse if, once again, you see some sheriffs and law enforcement agencies say, we are not going to enforce this mask wearing policy?
Well, early on, they questioned whether or not I had the authority to do this. We've shown in court that I do. And so as law enforcement officers, anyone who's taken an oath to uphold the law needs to stand by enforcing these orders. But let's take a step back and recognize we don't want it to come to that. We just want the state of Michigan, the people of this great state who are smart, hardworking people who love their family and care about one another, to do what we know to be the right thing. And that's mask wearing. If we all wear masks, we save lives, and we ensure that this doesn't go on unchecked and cost us even more than we've already paid. We've made a sacrifice. Let's not have to make it again.
But what are you going to do when you have a sheriff somewhere in Michigan who says, I'm not going to enforce this?
Listen, I'm not going to go through every potential scenario. We know that there are recalcitrant people in all sorts of professions. We can play out a million different scenarios. The fact of the matter is, I think the most people in this state want to do the right thing. And now that we know that masks really are the right thing, it's incumbent on all of us to do it, to step up and do it, and to help others who maybe don't understand it to appreciate what this is really about. As a daughter of someone who has COPD, as the mom of a child who has asthma, I do not want to get COVID-19, not just because I don't want to get sick, but the worst thing would be to bring it home unwittingly. 30% of people who have COVID-19 will never show a single symptom of it. And that's why mask wearing for everyone is the best thing that we can do until there's a vaccine or cure, which we're a ways off from.
Talking about medical conditions, there is an exemption in this order for people who cannot medically tolerate a mask. What is to stop someone from walking into Costco? And if a worker says, "Do you have a mask?" and they simply say, "Nope, I have a medical condition that prevents me from doing it." What's to stop people from doing that en masse?
Well, I suppose there are all sorts of ways that people could flout the law, and I'm sure that some will push the envelope. What we're asking, though, is that the vast majority of people who are trying to do the right thing understand that masks are doing the right thing. It is something that is being mandated all across the country. It is a way to ensure that we don't have to move back into phase three and close things down again. It is a way to ensure that we increase the odds that our kids can get back in school. And so where there are some people that might try to, abuse what would be a legitimate excuse for one person. I can't speak to what we're going to do about every bad actor. We're just trying to prevail on people to do the right thing. It's on every single one of us.
Okay, these have all been practical questions I've been asking about how this can be applied and enforced. Philosophical question, because one of the most common things that we hear, at least that I see in social media, is this infringes on my rights and freedoms. What do you say to people who come at you with that argument?
You know what? Our rights and freedoms are always determined by the public health, safety, and welfare as well. That is always, you don't have a right to yell fire in a crowded theater because you jeopardize other people's safety. The fact of the matter is we have a global pandemic. We have a virus that is out of control in this country. We got it under control for a little while here in Michigan, but it is growing again. And so every one of us has to do our part. This is the law, and everyone is expected to adhere to it. And when we do, this small sacrifice of wearing a face covering will make Michigan a lot stronger and will create opportunity for us to expand on what we can safely do. And so if you want to exercise all of your rights under the law, wear a face mask so that we can continue opening up other sectors of our economy.
Your emergency declaration, and with it your emergency powers to enact policies like this, is set to expire on the 16th of this month. Is it your intention right now to extend that again?
Yeah, so 49 out of 50 states have states of emergency. The one state that is the exception is Wisconsin, and that's because they had a legal battle, and the governor's powers were not the same. But they're not the same as what Michigan affords our governor, whether it's me or whomever succeeds me or whomever preceded me. The fact of the matter is, the challenges that have gone to court have upheld my authority to do these things, and thank goodness, because we've saved tens of thousands of lives by doing the right thing and taking aggressive action to combat COVID-19. And so we've just got to continue doing the next right thing. We can show that we are smart, that we get it, that we get respect for one another, and it's by the simple act of wearing a mask could keep us from having to go back into a stay-home posture. And I know no one wants that.
So real quickly, you do plan on extending that emergency powers?
Oh, yes,
Emergency. Okay.
absolutely. I think until we've got, until we've made a lot more progress in this nation
Mhm.
and toward a cure or vaccine or some sort of a treatment, it's probably likely that every state in the nation will too.
You talked a bit about, and you've talked several times, we don't want to go backwards to what we saw a couple of months ago. And is there a hard and fast amount of cases or deaths or hospitalizations where you would lock the state down again? Have you thought that far ahead yet?
Well, it's very clear that, the numbers of positive cases matter, right? We know that our numbers of positive cases have been going up as a percentage of per million people. It's continued to rise. In the Grand Rapids region, it's over 40 per million, which is a concerning number. We've seen it rising everywhere across the state. If that trajectory continues, it'll get to such a concentration that it'll be unchecked community spread, and we may have to start taking steps backward. But context matters too. 140 people getting COVID-19 at Harper's that we can trace and isolate is very different than 140 people randomized throughout a county. And that's precisely why the public health overlay of context is really important. We got to get this right. And so we're paying attention to the science. We're taking every action we can to save people and to protect people, and masking up. Having everyone masking up is the smartest thing we can do to drive this number down. And so everyone doing it makes a huge difference.